Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Ozcast.
All right, so welcome to another deep dive, everybody. Today, we are going...
Another deep dive.
Yeah, another deep dive into a story.
Right.
That starts in a small Australian town and ends up in the middle of, like, this big international drug trafficking situation.
Wow.
Our source today is an article from the Cape York Weekly. And let me tell you, this thing, it's a story that I think is going to keep people guessing right to the very end.
Small town meets big time trouble, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
It's juicy.
It is. It is. So the article, it talks about this man in his 50s from Cape York in Australia.
Okay.
He was arrested in Colombia
Oh, wow.
for allegedly having 3.5 kilos of cocaine while he was trying to leave the country.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is that this guy, he wasn't like some shadowy figure. You know, he was employed by a local council contractor.
Right.
And pretty well known in the community.
So that's what's so interesting about this is it really challenges our assumptions about, who gets involved in these sorts of activities.
Yeah.
Because, we think about drug trafficking as something that happens, in far off places with people we'd never encounter.
Right, right.
But this is bringing it home.
Yeah, exactly.
This is someone's neighbor.
And this is someone's neighbor.
Yeah.
And there's another layer to this
Okay.
that makes it even more, like, head-scratching.
Okay.
The Cape York Weekly reports that this man, he'd made multiple trips between Colombia and Dubai
Goodbye.
over the past 8 months.
Okay.
Now, I don't know about you, but...
Yeah, that raises some questions for me, too.
Right.
Dubai doesn't exactly scream, small-town council workers' vacation spot, does it?
Yeah, not really.
It suggests a
It's
level
super
of...
far.
Yeah, and a level of sophistication and international connection.
That he just wouldn't necessarily expect.
Yeah, and it raises questions about the routes and networks involved in this whole thing.
And we're not talking small-time stuff here, right?
No, definitely.
3.5 kilos of cocaine. I mean, that's a
That's a lot.
pretty substantial amount, right?
It's not just someone, dipping their toes in the water. This points to a much bigger operation potentially.
Definitely.
To understand that, we need to consider Colombia's role in the global drug trade.
Okay, yeah.
Colombia is sadly one of the world's leading producers of coca, which is the raw material for cocaine.
Right?
And because of where it's located geographically, it's a transit point for trafficking routes.
It's like a hub.
Yeah, it's a hub for trafficking routes that, they span the Americas and even go beyond.
So this isn't just some local story.
No.
This is like connected to this massive web of international criminal activity.
It's exactly.
Those ripples that you were talking about.
Exactly, those
Exactly.
ripples. And when you look at the typical trafficking routes, that's where a place like Dubai starts to make sense.
Oh, interesting.
Dubai is a global hub. It's a global hub for trade and finance, which unfortunately makes it attractive
Oh, I see.
for all sorts of, illicit activities.
So, yeah, for money laundering and stuff.
Exactly, all connected to this drug trade.
So it's possible that this guy from Cape York, whether or not he knew he was a part of something way bigger than just his small town.
That's certainly a possibility, and it really just emphasizes the fact that the drug trade is,
It's everywhere.
Yeah, it's transnational. It's got consequences that can be felt all over the world.
So let's talk about what this guy might be facing now.
Okay.
That he's been arrested in Colombia, right?
All right.
We know he's an Australian citizen.
Right.
But does that even matter
It doesn't.
when it comes to the legal stuff?
No, not really.
Like, what does that look like?
Because he was arrested in Colombia.
Oh, okay.
He's subject to Colombian law,
I see.
regardless of his citizenship. And Colombia is, they're very strict on drug trafficking.
Yeah. Okay, so what are we talking about here?
What kind of penalties?
Yeah, what kind of penalties could you be looking at?
So the penalties in Colombia for drug trafficking, they can be severe.
Yeah.
You're looking at lengthy prison sentences, like decades.
Oh, wow.
Hefty fines that could wipe out, pretty much anything he has.
Yeah.
And they could even seize anything that they think is connected to the crime.
So even though he's Australian, he could be spending a really long time in a Colombian prison.
It's a very real possibility.
Wow.
And it really highlights the risk you take when you get involved with illegal activities overseas.
Yeah.
Because those laws, they might be very different from what you're used to back home.
Now, the Cape York Weekly article, it mentions that the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade is providing him with consular assistance.
Oh,
Can you maybe explain what that means and what kind of support they can actually offer him in this whole situation?
So consular assistance, it can include a range of things, They can provide information about, how the legal system works in Colombia.
Right.
Make sure that he has a lawyer, someone to represent him.
Yeah.
They can visit him in prison and advocate for his well-being.
Okay.
They basically act as a go-between for him and his family back home and the Colombian authorities.
So they're there to support him and make sure he's treated fairly within the Colombian legal system.
Exactly. But they can't interfere with the legal process itself,
Right.
They can't just get him off or demand special treatment just because he's Australian.
Right.
Their role is to help him navigate this within the framework of Colombian law.
So even with their help, he's still facing a pretty tough road ahead.
Absolutely. It's a serious situation with consequences that could change his life.
So we've got this man from Cape York. He's caught up in this alleged international drug trafficking operation, facing some serious charges in Colombia. The Cape York Weekly, it also mentions that the Australian Minister for Foreign Affairs declined to comment on the case. What do you make of that?
I mean, it's not uncommon for governments to be a little cautious about commenting on cases that are ongoing.
Yeah.
Especially, when there are international implications. They don't want to say anything that could, hurt his case.
Jeopardize it.
Yeah, jeopardize it or complicate things. With Colombia.
It's like they're walking a tightrope.
Exactly.
Between acknowledging what's happening.
Right.
But not making any promises that they can't keep.
They've got to balance their responsibility to, help their citizen.
Right.
While respecting how the Colombian legal system works.
Yeah, it's a complex situation.
It is.
For sure, it really is, with a lot of moving pieces, and it's left a lot of people back in Cape York wondering how all of this could have even happened.
It has, and it's a reminder that, the global drug trade, it can affect even the most unexpected places.
Yeah, exactly.
It shatters that illusion that, this kind of stuff only happens over there.
Right, it's not just over there.
It can happen anywhere.
It can happen anywhere.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It really is.
So, yeah, that's a lot to think about.
It is.
It's a lot to
unpack.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's what these deep dives are for.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we love to dig in.
We do.
All right, so we'll be right back after a quick break.
All right. It's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, how this case really shows how this global drug trade works,
Yeah.
We always hear about the big busts, the cartels.
Right.
But this is like a glimpse into the human side of it all.
Right.
How someone from a totally normal background can get caught up in this web of,
You're like, how does that even happen?
Exactly. It spans continents. It's incredible.
It's like we're peeling back the layers of an onion here,
Mm-hmm.
and with every layer, there's more questions,
more intrigue.
Yeah, more intrigue. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we talked about the possible routes, and that this probably involves way more people,
right,
than just this one guy.
Yeah.
But what about the why?
It's the big question.
Yeah, what would make someone risk it all
Mm-hmm.
to get involved in something as dangerous as this?
Well, that's what everyone back in Cape York is wondering, too.
I bet, yeah.
And while we can't know for sure what his motivation was,
Right.
there are some, common things that we see in cases like this.
Okay, so let's get into that.
Okay.
What are some of the factors that might lead someone down this path?
Well, money problems are often a big one.
Okay.
People are struggling to make ends meet. Maybe they have a lot of debt, or they just feel like they don't have many options
Right.
to, get ahead financially.
Yeah, I can see how that would be tempting,
Oh, absolutely.
especially these days where everyone's,
Yeah, everyone's...
constantly bombarded with images of wealth.
Exactly. You think money will solve everything.
Yeah, it's easy to think that that's the answer.
And for some people, it's not even just about basic needs, It's
Yeah.
about wanting that luxury lifestyle.
Right. The cars, the vacations.
Exactly. The stuff they think they can't get
Mm-hmm.
through...
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free. And you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Normal means.
So it's almost like this messed up version of the American dream.
Yeah, kind of.
Where success is measured by how much you have.
Yeah, it's all about material possessions.
Right, exactly.
And sometimes it's not even really about the money itself.
Oh, okay.
It's about what comes with it, power,
Yeah.
influence, control, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That they might not have in other parts of their life.
It's a dangerous way to think, though, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Like power through illegal means will somehow bring happiness.
It's a fantasy.
Yeah.
It's a trap, really.
Right.
Because the drug trade, it's a brutal world.
Yeah.
It's filled with violence, betrayal.
Right.
You're constantly looking over your shoulder. And the consequences, as we've said, they can be really bad.
Yeah. For everyone involved.
Not just for the person involved, but for their family,
Right.
their community, everyone.
And you were talking before about how this case shows just how global this whole thing is.
Yeah.
Can you unpack that a little bit more? Like, what are the bigger implications here?
Well, this case, it's just one small part of this
Right.
massive problem.
Yep.
The demand for drugs in richer countries, that's what fuels the whole industry,
Right.
And that demand, it creates a chain reaction
Yeah.
with consequences that cross borders.
So it's about more than just the drugs themselves.
Way more.
It's like it's the whole system.
It's the social and economic forces at play.
Yeah.
It affects countless lives.
So this brings us to like Australia's response to all of this.
Right.
So we know that they're providing that consular assistance.
Right.
But what about like their overall approach
Yeah.
to dealing with this drug trade? Like
Yeah.
what are they doing
Yeah.
to address, the demand for these drugs? Are they working with other countries to try and stop these networks?
Well, Australia, like many countries, they have a kind of a multi-pronged approach. They have law enforcement out there trying to intercept shipments,
Right.
disrupt the criminal organizations,
Mm-hmm.
prosecute the people involved.
Yeah.
But there is also a growing understanding that we need to deal with the root of the problem.
So it's not just about catching the bad guys.
Exactly.
It's about stopping it from happening in the first place.
It's about prevention, education,
Yeah.
helping those who are already struggling with addiction.
So Australia, what have they actually been doing?
Well, they've put a lot of money into harm reduction strategies,
Okay.
like, needle exchanges, safe injection sites to
Yeah.
try and minimize the health risks.
Mhm.
They have a really good system of drug treatment and rehab centers, and they're focusing on public awareness campaigns.
Right, to try and like teach young people about the dangers.
Exactly.
Okay, so it sounds like they're trying to tackle this from all angles.
Yeah, they're taking a holistic approach.
Mm-hmm. Because there's no one easy answer.
No,
No.
absolutely not. It's way too complex for that.
Right.
It takes collaboration
Yeah.
between governments, law enforcement, healthcare providers,
Right.
community organizations, individuals, everyone, really.
It's a team effort.
It is. And it takes a long-term commitment,
Okay.
to really address those social and economic factors
Yeah.
that contribute to all of this.
I mean, this case, it's a tragedy in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it is.
But it does give us a chance to learn
It does.
and to have these tough conversations
Absolutely.
about the drug trade and how it affects everyone.
We can't just ignore it.
Right, exactly.
We have to be informed. We have to be engaged.
Yeah.
And willing to look for solutions.
Solutions that actually get to the root of the problem.
That's it. Exactly.
This whole thing really shows how these like seemingly isolated events are actually connected to these massive global networks.
Yeah, it's like you said before, the ripples, right?
Exactly.
One little thing happens,
Yeah.
and the effects are felt everywhere.
This arrest in Colombia, it's a reminder that the drug trade, it's not just happening over there, it's everywhere. It's global.
It really is, and it highlights the need for everyone to work together to
Yeah.
tackle this,
International cooperation.
Exactly. No one country can do this alone.
Right.
It takes governments, law enforcement, intelligence agencies all sharing information,
Yeah.
disrupting those routes, dismantling those networks.
And it sounds like you were saying, it's got to go beyond just the usual law enforcement stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
We have to address the reasons why people get involved in this in the first place.
That's the key, right? We have to get to the root of the problem.
Prevention, right?
Prevention, exactly. Investing in education, providing opportunity.
Giving people a real shot.
Yeah, a real chance to build a better life so they don't feel like they have to turn to this.
So it's about empowering communities.
It is.
Giving people a chance to, like, break free from this cycle of poverty and crime.
That's it.
Create a world where this stuff isn't so appealing because people have other options.
Exactly. And it's about changing how we think about it, too.
Okay.
You know, we can't just demonize everyone involved.
Right.
We have to understand that a lot of them they're victims of circumstance. They're trapped and they're being exploited.
So it's about offering them support.
Yes, absolutely.
Not just punishment.
It's not just about locking people up.
Right.
It's about helping them get back on their feet.
It's a complex issue.
It is.
But it sounds like there's some good things happening.
Yeah, they are.
To try and address this.
People are starting to understand that we need a different approach, a more well-rounded approach.
Yeah. Okay, so before we wrap things up, I want to go back to the man at the heart of this story. We've talked about why he might have gotten involved.
Right.
But we still don't know, like, the whole picture.
No, we don't.
What's going to happen to him now? What kind of legal process is he looking at in Colombia?
Oh, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's hard to say for sure.
Okay.
The Colombian legal system, it's different from Australia's.
Right.
It can be very slow, complicated.
Okay.
He's probably going to go to trial.
Right.
And if they find him guilty, I mean,
Yeah.
he could be in prison for a long time.
And is there any chance that he could, like, serve that time back in Australia?
Well, there are treaties,
Oh.
you know, that allow for prisoners to be transferred, but it's not guaranteed. It's not automatic.
Right.
It depends on the specifics of the crime,
Yeah.
the length of the sentence, whether the two governments can agree on it.
So it's a waiting game.
Pretty much.
And while we wait to see what happens,
Yeah.
I think it's important to remember that this isn't just some story in the news.
It's a real person.
Yeah, this is a real person's life.
With a family?
Yeah, with a family, with a community.
Yeah.
And the choices that he made, I mean, whatever the reasons were,
Right.
they've had consequences for a lot of people.
That's right. And it shows the wider impact
Yeah,
of these choices.
absolutely.
It's not just contained, you know,
Right.
it ripples out.
So folks, as we wrap up this deep dive, here's something to think about. This case, it shows us that even a place as far away as Cape York can be affected by these global events.
It's a small world.
Yeah, exactly. It really is.
More connected than we realize.
We've seen how complicated this drug trade is, how interconnected our world is, and that there's no easy fix.
No, it's going to take all of us.
Yeah, it's not just about catching the bad guys. It's about getting to the root of the problem.
Absolutely.
It's about working together, understanding the human side of this. So keep asking questions, stay informed, and be part of the solution.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning.
And keep diving deep.
Ozcast.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.